And welcome back to another edition of Singular Tutorials. Today we're going to dive into editing a marketplace theme, and I'm joined by my two rock stars.
Hold on, Stephen. I think you got the title wrong. We're actually building custom overlays.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the little prompt here, and it still says editing a marketplace theme. That's okay.
I don't know what happened.
Wait a second. Let me just.
It's how you can tell it's live.
Mistakes are already happening.
Yeah.
That's okay. And you know what's funny, guys? I have the stream routed back in here, and I was like, why am I getting feedback? Because I'm watching our own stream. Yes, Kathryn, you're right. We are not editing a marketplace theme. We are diving into building a theme from the ground up, we'll call it. How about that? That's definitely where we're gonna show users how to start from nothing, from a clean slate, from a blank composition right in the dashboard. And if I'm not mistaken, Kathryn, correct me if I'm wrong, we had some users send in some designs and we picked one of them, and we're going to build 3 overlays today. I believe a live plug, if I'm not mistaken, a ticker, and I'm gonna kick it off with a lower third, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So
that's the plan.
I guess we dive in. I guess we dive right in and we go over to me sharing my screen. So give me 1 second here, guys. And I'm going to share my screen. There we go. Now, Travis, you're out there somewhere too, helping us stream today, right? Using vMix again today?
That's correct. I'm out here on the wheels and steels.
I love it. So Travis is in the big studio. I'm in the little studio around the corner. And Suzanne is out there in beautiful, sunny, it looks like sun out there, sunny UK. And Kathryn is here in Southern California. And here we go. We're in the dashboard. And I am going to go into, Kathryn, help me out here. Which directory are we working out of today?
Hey, Kathryn, Stu, you're sharing your Slack here.
Really?
Yeah, I was wondering what that was.
I know, it might have gone a bit insane, but no.
That's not
I was like thinking around my computer.
I love it. You know, it's so funny because in Zoom, you get like,
there we are.
It's funny in Zoom, you get all those windows that get, as soon as you go to share, you got bang, I got all these windows up because I've got a lot of windows in the background that, and you know, in Google Meets, it's just bang the whole thing and you're done. But in any event, let's start. We're in the dashboard. We are going to start in, we're in our dashboard, and I'm going to start in, well, we got Kathryn's directory here. Projects, perhaps, custom themes. Where do we want to build this demo? Does it really matter? How about right here, right? In the news theme. That's where we're going to build it. So I'm going to start with a new composition, and we're going to call this news. And create. Boom, it opens up a new browser tab, and we are in a blank composition with nothing. So I'm going to show some of my best practices, what I like to do when I build compositions. I build lots and lots of them for customers, and I think it's a pretty good recipe. None of these things are many ways to skin a cat, so to speak. But usually what I do when I start, I go right over here to the default group, and I'm going to name this overlays. And Suzanne knows something about, well, she and I both, we generally build all of our composition in camel case. So I'm going to stick with that. That's just my own personal preference. You don't have to do that. You can name these things anything you want. So first thing is in the composition tree, I'm going to rename this overlays. I'm going to add my first subcomposition. And it's in the subcomposition that I'm going to build a lower third. So I'm going to add that, and I'm going to name this thing lower third. Now, in this case, I will break my rule of camel case because this name right here is that's the exact name that's going to show up in Singular Studio. So in certain instances, you'll see I will go break from my use of camel case. For those of you that don't know what camel case is, it would be like Stephen Heimbold, right? Like that. So first, just to go down that little rabbit hole. So down into the lower third we go. So what I like to do is, well, first we need a reference image, right, from our user. So I'm going to go add an image, and nothing appears because why? Because we need to go over to image and put a URL. So I can put a URL from any server here, web server here, or I can click on this gray button, and that is going to bring us over to our dashboard where these images have been dropped in here by Kathryn earlier in the day, or maybe yesterday, and I'm going to start with lower third. And that's the graphic I'm going to build. So I've got a nice reference image of it. I'm going to go ahead and rename this main. That's, again, my personal preference. And this short reference for short. And then what I'll do is I will just leave this alone so I can go back to it. So I'll add another group. I'm going to call this one main. And I will start building this. Now, my first step is I like to turn on bounding box. I'm just going to turn the main off for a second so I can see the blue bounding box. Actually, you know what might be helpful? I'm going to actually take that back. I'm going to turn this on, but I'm going to set the brightness down to like 50. And then I'm going to take main. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move main down. I'm going to turn off bounding box. It's going to be full length of the screen. It's probably about 10, maybe it's 7 high. And then I'm going to move it up. It's probably -5 if I had to guess. Look at that, pretty close. So what I've done there is I made a bounding box on the parent group the same size as the overlay that I want to build. And I did that because now when I drop a rectangle inside of that group, it's going to go directly in it and live within that bounding box space. So I'm going to rename this base. Actually, I'll rename this, I'll name this base color. And I'm going to show you one little thing here. If I move this rectangle, it's going to move anywhere in the screen. But if I want to keep it bound or masked within the parent's bounding box, I simply go to main, select effects, and do the rendering options called clip children. And that's going to force this rectangle to stay within the bounding box of its parent. That's clip children. And that is our masking feature in Singular. So pretty straightforward. So I'm going to put that back to 0. Let's see. So next thing we need to do is why don't I go ahead and I know -5 is where it lands in the reference. I'll bring it above it. So I'll go to like -20 and I'll go back to the reference and maybe take the effects. I'll bring it back to 100. Okay. So now I need that base color, that blue base. It looks like there's a blue, what is that? You guys see 3 shades of blue in here, right? And about a 20-degree angle or somewhere around that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a color picker that I've downloaded, a Chrome extension called Color Picker. And I'm going to come over here and grab that value of blue. I'm going to copy it, close, come over to my base color, which is a rectangle. Click the fill, paste the hex value, and now I've got the blue value. Okay, next step is I'm going to need the 3 shades of blue within that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate this. There's some nice shortcuts here like Control-D. So I'll use the shortcuts. Control-D, hit Enter, and now I can rename this. So I'm going to call this base color 2. Go down on the, I just went down on the keyboard, the arrow. I'm going to call this one 3, being that's the one below it. And I know I'm going to need a third one. Actually, I won't duplicate it. Pardon me. I'm going to go back to this one, and then I'll do the third one. So what I'm going to do here is normally, and Suzanne had a good point, normally I do the skew here, or we generally do the skew here, but in this case, I'm going to do it here. Again, it's not going to hurt anything. So under effects, I can do a skew, and it's probably, if I had to guess, about -20. Now, you need to see that because it's a slightly different shade. So to get that shade of blue, what I'm going to do is go to effects, and I'm going to make the brightness maybe 150, and then I'm going to scale it in. So I'm going to go like this and bring it in. So it's going to be somewhere in here, if I had to guess, maybe 75. That seems pretty close, I think. So now I've got this piece, and now I need the one in the middle. So I'm going to duplicate. When I say the one in the middle, that darkest area in the middle. And you know what? It looks like I've got this reversed. I want this to be, meaning the values, the color values are going to be reversed. So this one down at the lowest is brightest here. Then it goes a little darker, then a little darker. So the base, which is all the way in the back, under effects, I'm going to leave that at, I'm going to take that to 200. That might be a little heavy-handed, but that's okay for now. I'm going to make this one 50 and this one 100. And on this top one, again, I'll scale this one in, and he's going to land somewhere around here. Guys, how am I doing? Am I confusing anyone? Are you guys understanding what I'm doing there? Pretty straightforward. Just 3 rectangles. The top 2 are skewed in the rectangle itself under effects by -20 to get that angle. It might be a touch more than that. What do you think? Maybe -30? I can't. Nah, that's probably too much. Let's call it -20. That's fine. maybe a degree or two. I don't know. Maybe let's go 22 or 20. Make it 25. We'll call it. And the same on the one on the top. Negative 25. I don't know. Is that close enough? Okay. So the next piece I will add, how about, I guess the text, right? We'll put the text on top. Actually, you know what? Let's do the gradient. It looks like there's a very subtle gradient going across.
Like a 3D bevel kind of effect going on there.
Yeah, it's like, right? Like a little bit of a bevel. So how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to take the background color. I don't have to take, I could add another rectangle. Add another rectangle. I'm going to rename this gradient. And then what I will do is position it. Let's see here. It is here. Oh, I lost my train of thought. Where am I here? Oh, that's the reference image. I'm sorry. And I got confused because the reference image is still in there. The reference image is down below. So the gradient right here. So what I will do on the gradient, I'll go to the rectangle, and it's masking, or it's covering up the three blue rectangles below it. So I'm going to make a linear. I'm going to get rid of the point in the middle. So I select it, hit delete, and go 90-degree rotation. Keep the aspect ratio of the gradient. I'll set this point over here to pure black and this one over here to pure white, but I'll set some transparency. So maybe 10 up at the top, and let's go to, like, I'm going to guess, I don't know, 30. That's pretty close, right? We've got just a little subtle gradient on top. Again, we can go dial that in a little bit later. I think my lightness value over here is a little heavy-handed, and that would be the third one here, effect. So maybe that's more like 180. That's probably a little closer. And oh, where was I? Under, you know what? I'm going to go back to -20. I think I was right all along. Now it's starting to. Okay, so we've got the background sort of dealt with, I'll call it. Now we just need some text. So the next piece is I'm going to add a text widget. And I'm going to, again, turn on bounding box. And you can see it showed up its transformation by default. We bring it at this size. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rename this title. And then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to hit R on the keyboard. R is default for reset. So if I hit R, that'll take it to 100. I also obviously could type in 100. So now I know the text is exactly on top. And then I need to go to text and center it. And probably scale it down because it's a little big. So I'm going to scale it down here, and I'm going to make it, I'm going to shoot for 80. Okay. The next piece would be, what do you think, guys? Animate it? I'd say probably animate it. I think we've covered all the.
Do you think we want the text to be like cropped on the side?
Yeah, I'd indent the text a little bit so it's not 100, because if someone writes the whole way.
Yeah, that's a good point. So what Suzanne's talking about with the bounding box on, you can see if I start typing into this text field, I'm just going to paste the word text a bunch of times across, right? It's going to go all the way to here. And we don't want that because it's kind of sort of too close to the edge. So all we have to do is go over here and select title, the size, and we'll bring this down to say like 96. That gives it a little breathing room on the edge of the frame. That's a good point. So I will go back here and just put the word text. The next piece is, let's animate it. Let's go to our animation channel. And you can see, as soon as you go to animation, you can see all these fades. And that is because by default, anytime you bring in a widget, either from the commonly used widgets here or obviously from the widget library, same things are located here. For example, text. There's the text widget. It's also here. We drop in a fade animation by default. But I don't want that. I just want to start by animating the parent. So what does that look like? If I take this out, everything's going to fade, well, including the reference image in the background. For starters, that's not super efficient because I'm asking Singular, I'm asking the renderer, effectively, the browser, to render all those fade effects. So what I'm going to do is take the first one, click on it, and set it to none. Then I'm going to copy, and I can go here. Now, clearly, I can go to each one of these and click 1, 2, 3, or I can click here, come down at the bottom here, and paste. So I'm pasting the saved animation that I copied off of the title. I like to do 2 timelines. I think that's good practices. What that means is 2 timelines. Right now, there is no in animation. It's just going to stay there, right? There's no animations other than the one on the reference image behind. But if you enable 2 timelines and select this, now you can have a different animation from the in than you have from the out. So again, on the out, I'm going to go ahead and clear these out. Now, one small gotcha as long as I'm here, if you're midway in the timeline and you delete one of these, you might at some point have to refresh the browser because we're not going to reset those values to 0. That's just small little gotcha. It's not even a gotcha. It's just more of a byproduct of the browser. So I'm going to set this to none. Again, I'm going to use my trick of copying gradient. Now, clearly I could paste gradient again, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just paste down here. It's also located here, the paste of the animations. So I'm going to go here and paste. So now I've got no animations whatsoever. And I'm going to start with something really basic. I'm going to go back to the in animation. I'm going to animate the parent right here, translate, and I'm going to go down over a second with a power of 3. And that's going to look like this. I'm going to take it out. Again, there is no out animation yet. It comes up. Now let's work on the out. On the out, I'm going to do just straight down again. Translate it down over a second. And I highly recommend that across the board, whatever velocity curve, these are velocity curves preset for you that you select, that you keep them consistent across the entire graphics package. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, specifically on a fade, which I'll explain in a minute. But that just makes it so that everything looks consistent, so they're not mixing and matching velocity curves. And for anyone that's a little confused on what velocity curves are, a linear move, and you can see here, that dialog box dropped off. Bear with me here. User error. Okay, here we go. So this is a linear velocity. That means you can walk from point A to point B at the same constant linear speed over a duration. So let's say if I walk across a room at point A, I go to point B, and I need to get there in 1 second, and I walk at the same pace. But if you change that velocity, if you say, hey, I want to walk really fast in the beginning, I did it again. I deleted it. See that? I'm a little slow.
If you do it at the bottom, Stephen, you'll find that it doesn't disappear when you change it.
Ah, yeah, you're right. Down here, you can do the same. That's a good, thank you, Suzanne. That's a good point. Down here, I'm usually do my tweaks here, but Suzanne is right. You can do the same things down here. I won't call it confusing. It just is what it is. It's another way to get to the animation controls for any given widget in your composition tree. So it's set to translate down over a second, power of 3. Now, again, back to that velocity curve. So what that curve is telling you is that it's going to do a nice ease. It's going to go slow and then increase speed as it goes. And you can play around with these. There's a bunch of them in here. So in any event, let's go back to, let's see what the animation looks like now. Here's the out. It comes down and in. Now, there's nothing stopping me from saying, maybe the text, I want to kind of fade that in as it comes in. So I'm going to add a fade here, and I'll go, like Suzanne said, I'll do the tweaks down here. I'll go to a fade over half a second, and I'll set that to linear. Now, I highly recommend on fades, back to that comment I made earlier, set all your fades to linear, because fades just inherently do not really look right, especially in longer duration animations when you're using a velocity curve. Play with them, but from my experience, a fade, generally speaking, is something you want to do in a linear fashion. Any event, so if I do that, that's on the outside. On the out to in, I'm sorry, the inside, now I want to do the same thing here. So I'm going to add the fade. It's set to linear by default when you add it. And now it's going to kind of fade the text out, just the text. The bar stays completely opaque. Right? Pretty straightforward. So now let's do a little more stuff. Let's have, let's put it into, let's animate these bars. So when it first comes up, what you might want to do, what do you think, Suzanne? Should I keep it simple, or should I animate those bars as we come out?
Animate the bars.
Animate the bars?
Animate the bars.
Okay, so here's the first bar here. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a scale. So I'm going to do a scale. Now I've selected scale, and I'm going to do over a full second, again, power 3. I'm going to copy that one. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it on all three. Okay. And now what's going to happen is it's going to kind of jump up from the bottom and do this, which is a little, I'd say that's a little odd. I don't really care for that. So what I will do.
Still wider too.
I'm sorry, one more time. Oh yeah, it's
the gradient on top is like still wide.
Yes.
So we might want to
Yes,
match
exactly.
it with one of them.
Yeah, exactly. So I will probably fade that on in the end. So I'll take the fade here and put it on gradient, and I'll have that happen. The translate in I'm going to have happen. Let's see. I will have that happen over a half a second, and then I'm just going to slide all this stuff down. I'm going to put the fades. There's a nice little tool here where you can zoom in and out on the timeline. The fades will happen at the very end. Again, I'm working on it's in the out state going into the in. And then I'll offset these. So the first one I want to have happen is this one. And now let's see what this looks like. Now it's still jumping up. So I'm not even going to put a translate here. And actually, this is what I was talking about earlier. If I delete this right here at this point, actually it did reset. In most cases, it will reset and take it to its default position. So I'm going to take it out. Get rid of this animation here. Actually, I'm not going to get rid of it here. Take that back. Because what I want to have happen is I want it to, there's my scale. And another thing, I just want to scale Y. Here we go. Copy, paste and offset, paste and offset. I think, you know what? I take that back. I think X probably is going to look a little better, right?
Yeah, I mean, X will look cool.
Let's
Like
see what
it'll
happens.
grow from the middle and just like expand.
There we go. So now it's kind of bouncing out like this. Now, back to a comment that Suzanne made earlier about the skew business. So if the one on the bottom, I did not skew. See, the edges right here are flat. And if I did skew it under effects, like I did the other ones, -20, the only thing I'm going to run into, I don't even think this is much of a rabbit hole. It is what it is. I'm going to turn off the navigator. I'm going to take it out and bring it back in. So you see, you're going to see that little edge there. Now, what you could do is you could expand this out maybe to 105. That's one way to do it, but that's, what do you think, Suzanne?
I mean, you don't have to do the whole
It's
thing.
not
You just do the base color 3.
Exactly. I mean, so that's how you would sort of hide the fact that your rectangle is, a little bit. But honestly, I think on this one in the background, I'm not even going to add the skew at all. Okay, so the last thing well, not the last thing, but one more thing I need to do is worry about the title, the text. It's update animation style. So if I go to text and I start typing, I'm just going to copy and paste text. When I paste the word text over and over, it's just the update style is just like a typewriter, right? It's just bang, 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 one after the other. So if I want to change the update style of the animation, I can go to the update tab and I can activate it. And I'm going to set that to translate on the out. When a new piece of data comes in or a new piece of text comes in, it's going to animate up, translate it up over 0.5 seconds with, again, I'm going to stick with the power 3. And on the way in, I'm going to do a translate down full second, power 3. And then if I type text in here, every time I bring new text in, that's the update style. So when this is on your program output in Studio, when we get to the Studio part of this, and you start, if you want to change, do a hot change with this graphic on your stream, for example, every time you put new text in there, whatever that text may be, that is what it's going to do. There's one more thing under update. There's this always execute button. I might as well cover that. What that means is, even if you put the same text in twice, one after the other, it's still going to always execute the animation. If you don't want that to happen, you turn this off. And that becomes important when you get into a little bit more advanced compositions when you're doing, for example, a table. And you have a table and maybe you want everything to animate as it goes from page 1 to page 2, and you don't want one piece of text to not animate. So that's why we added the always execute. The offset is you can, for example, if this was a 2-line and I duplicated this, I can offset the update animation so it's sort of a cascading effect. But again, in this example, we're just doing 1 line, so it's not really applicable. So I guess the last thing I need to do is just add a control node for the title. I go to title, I hit text. You know, I'm going to cover one small thing on this control node. I've got 2 ways to make the control node. I can simply click on the word text, and it's going to take the name that's in the tree, which is title, and I can add it. And when it shows up here, this is for multi-line text. Our default is for multi-line text. Now, I don't have multi-line text. I just have 1 line. So the way around that, if you want to clean that up, there's nothing wrong with this. This will work. But the other way around that is to simply, again, I just deleted the control node. Just go to the available control nodes. You can make them here, and I'll make this one. I'll call it title. Generally speaking, I like to name the control node the same that I do in the tree. And again, you can see where I broke my rule of camel case, because this is the actual name that you're going to see inside of Studio. So that might be a little bit more, I don't know, make a little more sense to an operator, someone who's triggering these graphics, that it's title. You can, each one of the control nodes has properties, and you have an ID and a title. I usually point this out. The ID is if you're doing more advanced things with Singular and you need a custom control application, you have the ability to have an ID for controlling Singular externally using this ID. So you can have maybe a camel case name here and or a number or anything you want here. But this title, that's what's going to show up in Singular Studio. 2 more buttons here. Immediate update. When we jump over to Singular Studio, there's an update button. And you will not have to click that update button if you enable your fill-in form here. It'll automatically go hot to air. It's a nice feature. Hide in form is simply you want to make a control node when you're authoring, but you do not want to show that fill-in form in Studio. And that has to do with many times if you're doing, maybe you make a few control nodes that make it easier for you when you're authoring. Maybe you have 3 or 4 lower thirds and they're all connected to a common control node, and you want to basically adjust the colors, but then you don't want Studio to see that. Okay, so now I just need to connect. I made it manually here, the control node, but it's not connected. This text, hello, is not connected to my text widget. I just simply hit text from my control nodes, you can see here, I go to title, and then it will bring, these are connected. The last thing I need to do is probably move this down to -5 again, because that is right on top of the original one. I no longer need the reference image, so I can delete that. Good practice is to go to revisions and save a snapshot. So I'm just going to call this, since I'm going to pass this composition on to Suzanne and then Kathryn to build the other 2 overlays that were given to us by a user. I'm going to just call mine lower, let's call this lower third only. And that saves a snapshot. So we can restore that at any time if we just want to look at the lower third. And I think, Suzanne and Kathryn, if there's anything I missed, I'm bringing up the navigator really quick. I went back to here, I brought up the navigator. This is really, really powerful tool. It's Control F on the PC, Command F on the Mac. You bring this up and it gives you this floating dialog box. And as of now, there's only 1 sub-composition. Here it is. And I have the ability to trigger it in and out from here. Now you can see the out animation is just straight down. Again, I'll just quickly review that. I'll go back to the lower third. I can click here too, and you can see the out animation is I just brought it straight down. Straightforward. Did I miss anything, guys?
Just to assign a logic layer to it. That would be the only thing.
Yes. You know what, Suzanne? I bet in 30 seconds I could probably even kill 3 birds with 1 stone if I just duplicate this whole graphic I just did. And I'm just going to call this one 2. And normally, oh, just a little personal preference. I normally I do no scaling operations or position or anything at this highest level of the composition tree. I leave this all of its default 0. I'm going to break that rule for a moment and just make this one 150. Actually, the second one here. I'll go R for reset on the keyboard, and this one 150. And why am I doing that? Because I'm going to use logic layers. So now I'm going to make a logic layer called L3 and assign both of them to L3, short for lower third. And so now when I bring in this one, hey, where's the other one? What did I do, Suzanne? It's not there.
Just shuffle it around.
Where's
That's
the
actually
turn the bounding box too? That might help.
kind of odd. Why did
This
it,
might
where
need
did
a
it show up?
Oh no, it'll be too low. So sorry, put your anchor point at the bottom and then set it to 0, because obviously you scaled the whole thing up at 150.
Got it.
So
You know
it will
what?
now
Then-
be off the screen. Just
So
lift
you
it
know
up
what we'll
rather
do?
than.
Yeah, so what we'll do is I'm just going to move it up here. Suzanne's right. It's scaled out of the screen so you couldn't see it. If that makes sense. So I'll just go to -20, just so we have 2 different lower thirds. And now you're going to see the logic layers in action. Right? You can't, it's state logic. You can't, it will not allow you to have 2 lower thirds on at the same time. You can see one thing is they're sort of colliding with each other, meaning one isn't completed before the other one starts. And that you got this nice little transition delay of the logic layers, and you can do a custom on both of them. And maybe I pulled a full second, and now one will complete, or there'll be a second delay before the other one comes in. But I'll delete that to clean up the composition because we don't need it. I'll go back here and I will call this short L3 only. And I'll delete this one. That's a snapshot. What do you think? Anything else? Any other goodies? Travis is awfully quiet in the background. Is he snoozing off? I don't hear him. He's out there somewhere.
He might be. Or his mic's turned off.
Why don't I go ahead and close this composition? It's called news. I'm going to stop my screen share. And then do we go to sunny UK with Suzanne, or do we stay here in sunny Southern California with Kathryn?
I don't mind. I can go. I'm doing the
We're
upper
going
bug.
to Suzanne. Door number 1, ladies and gentlemen, it's Suzanne, and she's going to open up the composition called News. This is cool. We haven't done this kind of style before, where we sort of pass off the con. This is kind of cool. I like this.
Yeah, you guys are going to see some very different building styles, especially from me, because I don't do it as much as these two.
And you know, honestly, Kathryn, it's a good point because there's so many ways to skin a cat. And I would say that, you know, I'm real stickler with camel case. I just find it a little faster and easier. And it's probably because I build a lot of more advanced compositions, as does Suzanne, where we have to interface with programmers and we don't want to trip them up. And what that means is those programmers are sending commands to the composition. And if we start not having a standard by which we write text, spaces and odd characters can really get in their way. So that, and also the other one is I'd really like to work in whole numbers if at all possible, either a whole number or 0.5, whether it's an animation, the duration of an animation, whether it's the position of something. It just makes your life a whole lot easier, especially when you're using the anchor points to move things, to flip them left to right, right to left. It's just, again, personal preference. You don't have to do that. My own neuroses after years of doing this type.
So this is where we differ in terms of build. I like having my reference at the root level so that when I can just literally have a little build that I just toggle on and off. And I know that kind of annoys some people when they build, but that's how I like to do my build. So again, I've started by creating a new subcomposition. I've just double clicked and renamed it. I'm now going to enter the composition. And I'm going to name my layer logic first before I go any further, and then I'm just going to set it to auto. Just going to close that. Once I have that all layered up, I don't like to think about it. Once it's done, it's done. It's to one side.
You know, I'm going to make one comment about that logic layer, just to interject for a second. if you only have one lower third and one bug, you do not need to assign a logic layer. That is there. You can, and it's not going to do anything to hurt the composition. But it's really there if you have multiple bugs or multiple lower thirds or multiple overlays. It could be some, a big ticker and a big lower third, and you can assign them to the same thing. It's really there so that you can, it makes it, just allows you to not have collisions between graphics that occupy the same space. That's the goal.
Yeah, so like for instance, if we had a different bug, like a 2-line bug or something, then that's when layer logic starts to be useful because you don't want those two different bugs to collide.
Absolutely.
So I've done exactly the same as Stephen. I've turned on my bounding box and then I've just scaled it. And then because we only like full numbers, I have moved my bounding box from an odd number to a whole number. And then I can start adding in my rectangle. But before I do that, I'm just going to turn it off, come up to my color picker and hopefully snapshot the color. But it's gone a bit weird today.
Oh yeah, it's in black and white.
It doesn't like anything. So hold on. Active page.
You do have a different color picker than I have.
Yeah, it's different. It's not done this in a while, so hold on. Let's
Acting
check all
up.
the time. It's all stuck in black and white. Hold on. Is it picking up the green? No. All right. I'm gonna guess the color for now.
You have your glasses on. This will be easy to land. Come on.
So one thing you might notice is that when you're in the color picker and you're trying to change color, sometimes it won't go until you're actually out of the red. It's kind of more of an orangey yellow, isn't it? So
yeah, I think you have to click to that point, Suzanne. You have to click the region, the color space first before you can change it. I've noticed that.
Yeah. The other way I could do this is by cheating, hopefully. There we go. I could just open it separately and do it that way. Normally it works. I've never been let down before until today. So
nice.
Again, this is where naming conventions ever so slightly change for me and Stephen. I like to say, either main base or rectangle. So I use shorthand RCT for rectangle, and then I do base, and then I'll do something similar again when I come to my text. I will go text and then I'll say like 1 or main. So it just basically means that when you start sifting through everything, you can see it. Like you don't have to go, okay, that's my text field. So
yeah, you have the name gives you a cue of what type of widget it is. That's a nice way to do it. I've done that in the past too. It's again preference, but just be consistent whatever you do, because that's the real thing, is just try to keep a consistency.
Yeah. And like I said, that you'll always get it where you'll have someone who builds ever so slightly different to you, and that will change. So you'll always spend like 5-10 minutes kind of figuring it out. So Stephen decided to skew inside the group, and he skewed his rectangle. I'm going to do mine on the outside, and I'm going to do that.
-20.
So you want -20? We'll stick with negative.
That's what
20.
I did.
Did it skew your text?
Oh, well,
it does, yes. So by doing it this way, it does skew my text. So I then have to go back to my text. I then have to go to effect and then type in 20, and then that resizes it. Now the reason why I'm doing it this way,
that works.
I don't know, Stephen, do you approve?
Stephen does not approve this message.
No, that is the only, not the only, but there's nothing wrong with the way Suzanne did it. I've just never done it that way. It's neat to see that. And I guess the reason is because if she had done the base, her main parent would have lost the corners of the base, the edges. Yeah, I get it. Makes sense.
So the reason why I do it this way and not the other way is that when I do X, so you can see that now comes out really nicely in square, whereas if I done it the other way, so hold on, I'm going to show you why I do it this way. If I just make this like twice the size and obnoxiously big, so that comes out nicely from the middle, whereas if I'd done it the other way around, 0, and type this one at -20, and then just bring this in ever so slightly. When I then use that scale, you can see that it doesn't, you get a weird angle.
It rotates.
Yeah, so you have a nice little, you get a bit of a weird angle on it. So by doing it at the root level or the parent level, I get a nice straight animation, and
Nice.
it comes out on that same angle. So that's the reason why. Also means I don't have to rescale anything there. It just is. So I then shrink that back down. I'm gonna make ours a little bit bigger than our reference, because I think it might be a bit too small for us to see.
Yeah, that one's just really, really small.
All right.
You
Still
just
gonna be
leave
the
it.
same. Yeah. I'm just gonna make us so we're nice half numbers or whole numbers like so.
Nice.
And then I like to make my control fields first, because again, I can get quite forgetful, and I like to
Yep.
just build them straight up. And then what are we doing? Translate up and then translate down on the curvature?
I did a translate up, down, 0.51 power threes. You can, that's a good one, Suzanne. Actually, do me a favor. Deactivate that. Just turn off your update animation. Go over to my subcom and can show users where you can copy, because this is a real time saver. So
Again, we can
Suzanne
just
just
press.
copies that. Yep, there you go.
And then again, if I wanted to, I could paste it in here, so I didn't have to think about any of the styling, but I can then come over, press this clipboard, and I have that exactly the same as Stephen's. It's a great thing, like once you get like one overlay done, you don't have to worry about anything else. So that's pretty much, I've got my control node, I've got my update animation. I can now start thinking about how I want to animate this in. So I know I want to kind of go from the beginning, and I'm kind of match it roughly to what Stephen's done, but I maybe make this a little bit crazier. What do you think, guys?
There you go.
All
But
right,
you know,
so
Suzanne, you and I,
Crazy to the audience, but
one thing's for sure, you and I always do one thing, which is to say we start with the the function first, and then go to the form, meaning we start with the animation comes last. I guess that's a better way to put it. We add that on at the end, and we're not really worried about the animation when you start off, because that's kind of a rabbit hole. You want to get the graphic positioned correctly, lined up correctly, and then you animate. Worrying about the animation before you have the graphic built is sort of that's no-go zone in my world.
all right, so
There you go.
you know, if I
Look at this.
let's just change this coloring. I mean, we've got a blue color in here, so I might go back over to Stephen's composition over here, take a quick copy of that, come back over to this, and then go to my base and just paste that. And then as we start looking at it, you know, you're going to have you change the control nodes, you know, where the anchor points are, so we have some nice different bits. And I'm going to make sure that everything's on X and Y, so I get it so it looks like it's crashing and colliding into each other, like so. And then I just drop my live so it comes in at a nicer kind of point.
Is the reference still on in the background? That's the white I'm seeing.
It is, yeah. That's what you're seeing at the bottom. So
Fine.
if I then just drop that.
There you go.
Because I'm sharing screen, playthrough is not very good, but
you know, actually, the performance of the rendering, that's a good comment that you made, the playback. You know, you shouldn't use the playback inside of Composer as a sort of a judge of what the ultimate performance will be when you come out of Studio, because right now we have the overhead of the UI itself loaded. And so once that's out of the picture and we're just firing off graphics from Studio, you're going to get much better performance, much better render performance. So usually it's pretty darn good in Composer, but that's just a little FYI.
and then where Stephen, it's all about the copy and paste. And then I'm just going to get mine, because I've got mine masked off, I'm just going to mask it off and send it that way. And because again, I did that, I skewed it in my master, in the root comp, I'm always going to get that nice angle where again, as if I'd done it just on the base, I might not have had that nice like angle. So I'm keeping that angle all the way through by having the skew at the root level or at the parent level. And that's me done on my build. So I'm just gonna turn off my reference or delete my reference because I don't know how Kathryn does it. Build my revision.
But yeah, bug and L3, I guess. Oh, that's fine. Just bug is fine.
Did I miss anything out, guys, that you think I should cover?
You connected your control node, you should be good. You know, while they are switching, while Kathryn is switching over, I'll just interject with a comment about those update animations. The update animations are incredibly powerful, but if you start getting into a very large composition, and when I say large, I'm talking multiple subcomps up to, I'm going to throw out a number of 20 plus. You know, if you know you don't need to use update animations, for example, if you know you're never going to send new data to an overlay that's on your output, then do not even enable the update animation. And I say that because in a very large composition, the bigger it gets, you know, essentially, not essentially, these are websites. These are web pages, I should say, not websites. These are web pages. And everything that you can do on a larger composition to keep the file size down and to keep the composition size down is to your benefit. So update animations, just the sheer fact of enabling one, writes a little bit larger of a file, creates a little bit larger of a file. And so, again, is that one thing going to make the difference between a composition playing, performing nicely and not? No, but it all adds up. So again, my point on the update animations, if you don't need them, don't enable them. That's that simple. Good practices.
So, sorry, Stephen. What did you have anything else you wanted to add there?
No, that's it.
Okay. So while Stephen was running through some of the stuff about update animations, let me go back to the root. I added a new subcomposition for our baseline, dug into it, created two groups. One is main, which is where I'm going to build all of the overlay elements. And then this one below is called reference. And this is where I've got my reference image. So I'm just going to click it again. We actually called it ticker in here, but I called the subcomp baseline. So what's the standard naming, like the difference between those two, you guys? Is there, or is baseline and ticker kind of like the same?
Ticker has its origin literally in ticker tape parades in New York City, with tickers going by on the side of in Times Square. So that now tickers we use that sort of as a generic term, but it could be a ticker that and we also use the word crawl, same thing, and that represents text that's literally ticking or crawling across the screen. But now there's all kinds of doing that same type of graphic, that bottom line graphic. We call it some cases bottom line, baseline. They all just basically, essentially they occupy the bottom strip of the screen and they display messages. So although if you're not actually technically building a ticker or crawl, maybe if it's rolling text one after the other, like an update animation, you might still refer to it as a ticker just because that's a common sort of term.
Okay, cool. I was gonna do a color picker situation here. Mine looks much uglier on my computer for some reason. But I'm gonna instead grab the color from Stephen's lower third. So if we put that on screen, my baseline is above, the bug and the baseline are both above the lower third, so that's why we're not seeing it on screen right now. So if I take these two off, there's the baseline. So I'm gonna grab his colors from there. So I'm sorry, there's the lower third. I'm gonna grab, let's see, what do I want?
Yeah, that guy, copy that guy.
This one.
Any one of those. All
right, so let me take his off screen again. I'm gonna throw in the baseline. Here's my back base that I just put in. I also resized this main group to the correct size of the baseline. So now I've got this first rectangle widget in here. I'm gonna paste in the color that Stephen had. So if I take this off, now it's obviously much darker than this one above. So I might just go to the effects and change brightness. It's gonna look better with a gradient on there. So we'll do that later. All right, so the next element that I want to, the next piece I want to build is this left title base, this yellow one. So I'm going to add another rectangle widget. I hid this one so I can see what's happening on our reference image here, but so this one's going to be called top base, maybe.
Yeah.
And you guys have trained me well with the camel case. I used to not do that, but it becomes kind of second nature after a while.
I like it. Well, when you
Makes
get
sense.
programmers,
I know exactly what you're talking about. There's a top base and there's a bottom base now. It's fine.
Oh, good.
exactly.
Okay. I need this color. Suzanne's already gotten that. So let me take my baseline out again, throw in her bug, grab maybe the top. What is it? Yeah, it's this one. I'm gonna close that so you guys can see what's happening. Copy that, go back, pull up the comp navigator, take out the bug, throw in the baseline, and then paste this color in here. Okay, so now we have to resize it appropriately. And actually this is where a skew situation is gonna have to happen, since you can see that there's an angle there. So I might have done this, I don't know if it's wrong, but I could have
Nothing's
done
ever
that.
wrong.
It's wrong.
No, it's-
No, nothing's ever wrong. It's just
oh,
different.
okay.
Just build it and then you can tweak it after you've, afterwards. It's more important to
Alright.
get the form right rather than the animation until
There
last.
you go.
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna skew it now by going to effect. What was it, 20% or something?
Minus 20.
Okay, 20.
See, this is when globals come in like handy because you can just kind of reference like the colors and like percentages and stuff like that.
You know what, Suzanne? When we're done, we'll throw some globals on this and show people what we're talking about, because you're exactly right.
Okay, so what I just did there, Suzanne covered this before, but when you skew, you're gonna get this, empty situation over here. So I changed, originally my anchor point was right at the left, everything was set at 0. I moved it to the right, and then, so this side of it, doesn't move, and then I can increase it to get rid of that space there. That might look weird depending on the type of animation that we do, but we'll deal with it when we get there. So I've got that, and then I just need the text. Also, there's this blue line here, and then I'll need a gradient on top. What if I do for the blue line? I can do an outline, right, guys?
You could do, but you're going to get it all the way around on the top and the bottom too. So you could duplicate top base in the composition tree and call that one top base edge, maybe, and then just push it a little bit to the right.
Okay. So originally I was thinking about doing a stroke on this, but we're going to just duplicate it and do that instead. So
I drop your the edge underneath the top base, just so it means you can extend it and it can be the.
Oh, I see. I was actually going to squeeze it so it would be super skinny, but I see what you're saying here. So you guys will see what she meant in a minute if you didn't already. I'm going to copy this blue color because the edge on our reference is also a blue. It's a dark blue. And then I'm going to paste it here. And I need to move it around a little bit so we can actually see it. So I'm going to increase the size. There it is. It's quite subtle, but you can see it. Now you get this weird like line stuff happening because that's the reference image. I made the sizing of my entire group 4.5. If I were to go up slightly, it would be better. You know what? I can do it at 5. I wanted to have kind of a whole number happening, or half number, but 5 works, so it's not confusing. All right, now we need some text. So again, I'm going to go back to one of the other overlays to grab a text element. I'm gonna get Steven's lower third text here. And I guess you guys didn't change the font. That would have been more effective if I copied that to get the font styling and everything. I guess I didn't really need to do that, but just paste it in here. Now, why is it there?
Now, so if
Just
you,
reshuffle it and you should, or it could be the fact it's looking for a control node that's no longer there. So maybe
Oh.
just unlink.
You know what? I'm just gonna do it maybe the proper way. I'm gonna create a new text widget. Okay, there it is. It came in really skinny, but that's okay. Set that to 100.
Yeah.
This one's gotta be at 100 too. Now we actually don't want it to be that wide because I'm gonna rename this actually. This is gonna be the title, maybe title text.
so Travis just chimed in. Catherine, I'm just going to interject for a second.
Oh, he did.
A user asked, yeah, he asked. A user asked if people can work on the same composition at the same time. You know, we had that originally in Singular, and we disabled that feature because people were, I don't know what to call it. It was driving people crazy. But yeah, technically, we like I said, we used to have that in the early days of Singular. Who knows? Maybe we'll have an option to turn it back on. We don't have any. It's not something we're thinking about doing anytime soon. But no, as of now, one person's in the comp, and in the dashboard, it will denote that someone has the composition open. It'll go to like a green, a little label. Anyways, back to you, Catherine. Sorry to interrupt you there.
No worries. I think that was a good thing to mention. We don't want multiple people working at once. It starts to get a little chaotic.
Gets crazy.
All right, so I've got my title text here. I'm going to add the control nodes later. Now I'm going to duplicate this, and this is going to be our, I don't know, main text.
Mm-hmm.
Same position, same size, because I duplicated it. I'm going to reposition it though, to like there. And you know what? I'm going to change my anchor point to the right so that I can set it at 0 and then size it that way. And then I'm going to move it back to the left so I can add a bit of a space on the edge. What did you do, like 5 points, Stephen, on your?
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. A little.
You can match it to what you can match it to what you have on there, which is on your text title, which is 1 point.
Okay, so 80.
Yeah.
All right. So that's where the text is going to end. Now I'm going to keep this as like stationary text. You could put like a scrolling ticker in there if you wanted to. There's a bunch of different, widget options here. So if I find, let's see, ticker, you can do a text ticker. I'm just going to keep it sort of basic for now. Let's look at the reference image one more time here. Okay, so it's white text and it's actually a bit smaller. That's all caps. Okay, so let's change this to white.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
There
smaller,
you go.
so I'm gonna do the height. Let's see, 90, 85.
There you go.
Close enough. All right, the title text, we need to be all caps. So let's do transform uppercase. So what's good about this is when your operator is changing the title text, if they do camel case or all lowercase, it's still going to lock it out at all caps. So if you as a designer want it to be that way and you don't want your operator to have control over that, make use of this transform property box.
And any advanced users that might run into this, you can put in HTML formatted text in there as well. So if you're doing like 2 cuts of text, you want different colors. We're not going to dive into that right now. We'll just tease that, right, Suzanne, for another
day,
another later date.
All right, so the last aesthetic piece that I'm adding is going to be the gradient. Again, I'm going to reference another subcomp, the lower third specifically, because Stephen's got a gradient in here. I'm going to copy that, go back to the root. You can do that by clicking this button here or by clicking root there. Dig into baseline. And let me take in the baseline so we can see it. I'm going to paste in that styling. So that looks okay. It doesn't really look like that. I think the blue is a bit more washed out, so I can change top base, not the edge. the back base here.
Yeah, there you go. Knock that back.
I don't know if the brightness is the right way to do it, maybe.
Well,
Just kind of-
It's
I like
hard without a reference file because we're kind of guessing colors, so it's
That's
not
true.
too bad.
Yeah, I would just, you know what, if you're trying to dial in a value that way, Catherine, what I would do is I wouldn't go grayscale. I'd leave that as its default.
Oh,
I'd knock the
okay.
brightness down to like 150, only because then you're adjusting color in two places: the actual color value, the hex value, brightness, and then hue. So you sort of have three things you're working. So if you notice the first one that I did, all I did is it's the same base color, and then I'm doing one effect on the two pieces on top. That effect being brightness. And when you wrap up, Suzanne and I will jump in and show people globals, and then it'll become clear why you would want to do it in that manner, meaning just affect colors with one of the filters, either brightness or hue or grayscale.
Yeah, that makes sense. You kind of keep
you're pretty dead on there. Maybe that.
I mean, the only thing I would say is just drop the gradient underneath the text, so the text, especially on the title, is a bit more
good call.
vibrant.
Oh yeah, that's right. Usually you'll want your gradient right above your primitive elements, your rectangles, circles, that sort of
It's not
thing.
going to wash out the text to give it that sort of milky sort of effect on the blue text specifically, but that looks good.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. Am I done? No, I'm not done. I have to do some animations.
Oh, look at all those animations.
Okay, so I'm going to do what Steven did, which is copy the fact that this guy right here has no animations. I'm going to go ahead and paste it on every one of these. And you can do that again in two places. If I click here and paste, sorry, I had to move out my Zoom preview window there. Move down here, paste, paste, paste. I don't care about my reference image. All right, so I've got one timeline activated. I'm going to activate two. So I have an in and out moves. I got to do the same thing over here. A lot of people are satisfied with a fade as the default. But if you want something a little bit more, you know, nice looking or advanced looking, that's when you want to get into translations and stuff. Okay, so let's see, what did again, referencing another animation style. Okay, so I think I'm gonna go with Steven's animation. The thing about this is it might look a little weird, the baseline, if it comes out from the middle. So I think what I might do is make it build out from the left. And in that case, I don't actually need that as a reference. So I'm gonna do it from scratch. Let's see, in the main, I think I'm gonna add a translate from, let's see what it is. Okay. So I could do it there at the parent, or I could do it individually underneath. What do you guys think for each base? I mean, it might make more sense.
Do you want like a rippling effect like that we have? If you want like a ripple effect, do it like, yeah, do it on the element level.
Okay, so let's do that. 0.5. I'm gonna get rid of this.
It's looking good. It's looking good. I gotta say, this is great.
All right,
really cool.
The edge, probably should paste that there. And same thing here. And the rippling effect that Suzanne is talking about is what Steven did with his lower third, which is offset these animations. So I don't know if this is the right direction. We just have to see.
Yeah, you'd want the bottom, the back base to come on first. Then you have it right, and then you're doing the edge. Then you're doing the top base.
Maybe we want some more distance between them, though.
Just while you're there, you have snap to grid on, which is a nice little feature. I always work with snap to grid. I rarely do I take that off. That's the little right under the word text. You can see the snap to grid and the zoom in and out features of the timeline.
And then you can also turn off the play ahead, the thing that, like, say you've got the first one, which is like lines, which is the snap to grid, and then the next one, like, that's, I don't know how to describe how that looks. It's like a little arrow with another arrow. That's the play ahead. So if you turn that off, the play ahead wouldn't follow with you.
Nice.
I like that. That's cool.
And what about your out animation? What does that look like?
Good question. I'm going to keep it simple and put it at the parent and drop it down like
drop
you
it
do with her.
There you go. Good idea.
Translate down.
Down.
Goodbye. Okay, cool. What's the power here? Now you can't really see it because it doesn't have to travel a very long distance, but we were using power 3 there. And I'm going to use power 3 on all these guys. I didn't do that. Power 3.
That's one of those subtle things that if you don't, it's not that anyone, you just get this sense that something's not right with the graphics pack. It's like things are moving at a little bit different pace. It's just the details, right? That's what makes the difference. There you go. Cool.
So what are you doing with your gradient? Is that coming in with the background?
Ooh, good question.
Or are you going to get that to fade like last second?
Probably a fade. That's what Steven did, right? So
yeah,
do a fade.
I go with the fade on those things.
Half a second. Drop it in after the last, probably the last rectangle has animated on.
That does fade to linear for me. You can do it right down below where your mouse is, just right to the right or there, either place.
Okay.
Because it's whatever's selected. There you
go. Power 1, no,
there you
go. Linear. Sorry, I just wanted to show you guys that there. Okay.
Perfect.
Does it feel a little late there? Maybe?
Yeah, you can slide it up. Slide it up a little bit.
It's cool because that comes in time with like the text as well.
Perfect.
All right, it's something. Okay, cool. So actually, let me go ahead and delete this reference because I don't need it.
And save a revision. Save that revision.
Oh, okay. Well, I want to do one thing first. You can see that there's 2 different colors next to this bug and the lower third. And the reason is because they've assigned their subcomps to logic layers. So I need to do that as well and create a baseline. Set it to auto. There we go. We've got baseline bug and the lower third.
You can set my lower third to auto too as well. Again, and back to that logic layers, you can do exactly what Kathryn just showed you. You can assign them to logic layers, but if this is all you have in this package, it will make no difference whether you have logic layers assigned or not. They'll just show up as little colorful little icons in Studio. That's nice. I think we're dialing this in.
All right, cool. I think that's it, right, guys? And then we just maybe upload it into Studio to show them what it's going to look like to operate. Oh, except I forgot one thing. My control nodes. I'm going to do that really fast. Text. I'm going to create one here. Main text. I'm going to better for the operator.
Beautiful.
Text. And yeah, what Steven said earlier is by default, it gives you multiple lines of text, but in the build, we only have 1 line. So we can keep it as is right here.
It doesn't do any, it doesn't, no harm. Exactly, Kaz, good point. And did you set update animations?
Oh, I didn't.
So you can grab mine if you want. I have the one in my lower third. Just copy that one.
This would be a great time to show the delay. So we could always set the text, the title and the text of delay.
Yes.
As well a little bit.
There you go.
Baseline update. That's going to be there.
So then, yeah, if you just set that offset to like 60, yeah.
For
like
main text or?
Main text, yeah.
Okay, 6.
Perfect.
And then 0.5 here?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Studio we go.
Now, what do? Save a revision.
Oh, we got to save it again. Yeah, let's do that. Baseline.
This is just good practice, honestly. I mean, when you make as many compositions as we do for so many different customers and support, you get into these habits. And I hope most of them are good habits. I think they are, but the revision one, I lean on that thing constantly. There might be 40, 30, 40, up to 50 revisions if I'm really going along and I need to jump back to previous versions. I usually date stamp them just so I know on Tuesday I presented something and I can go to that. I keep working away. Maybe on a Friday I make one and I can jump back and show before and after to a client or customer or somebody who needs some assistance. So, Suzanne, I know what you want to do right now. I can feel it. I can feel the glow, and I am with you. And I'm going to say, go for it. You want me to have it? I'll do it. You want to do it?
I got it.
I'm just going to sit back and watch.
Okay,
Globals. As Suzanne is setting that up, I'm just going to talk globals. What Suzanne is going to do is she is going to put some control nodes at the root level of this composition. And she's going to go through into the various subcompositions and assign those widgets, or those pieces to the widgets, those variables within those widgets, to the root level control nodes. Root level control nodes, it's pretty straightforward. They're going to control everything that they're connected to. So we can change all of the colors of blue to the whole package from blues to greens, and so primary, secondary color, that's usually our naming convention. I've occasionally in some customers, I've gone color 1, color 2, but primary color, secondary color, accent is usually oh, and you have a primary and a secondary and an accent. I see that little blue chip on the ticker. That could be our accent. I like where this is going. So
do we need a text color too, or?
We can add in 2 text colors, so we can have a primary text color. But it's a good time to mention that we have 2 different text values. So we've got a gradient, which we normally say that's where you attach to like your primitives, and then color you would assign to text.
Yeah, the color control, just to go over that, the color control widget is one that we use with text. The gradient control, not widget, the control node. The control node called gradient gets connected to circles and rectangles. The text gets connected to control nodes using the color control node. And you can see the icon slightly different. That sort of teardrop is for text, and the other one is for primitives, rectangles, and circles. Nice. Oh, so the accent, that's the gradient you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
30 and 10.
Yeah. Actually, this is going to show some of the really nice features of Singular right here, because in the lower third that I built, for example, that's one shade of blue. I just adjusted the brightness of those to get those 3 values. But when Suzanne connects, she's going around now and connecting all of the various control nodes at the global, at the root level. See where it says root control node? Boy, she's quick. Look at that. Ready? The root, boom. And now she's going to go to color. Yeah, well, we get rolling here. So again, had we started this demo with control nodes at the root level, sometimes a lot of compositions I do that. I know I'm going to be wanting to adjust primary, secondary color, accent colors, and maybe a gradient effect. And so I make those first, and then they're there waiting for me as I make a subcomposition. I just connect, and boy, that saved time. And a lot of times what you end up doing with those global control nodes is you go to them and you use that hide in form that I mentioned. Suzanne, when you have a second, just click on a control node and just show the users that the hide in form right here, because I don't want the operator to be changing that shade of blue. That's something I want to do from
an artist standpoint, right?
Exactly. So you have sort of, don't let, things go to any color you want.
Well, we can show that in Studio in just a second.
Oh boy, we're leading up to a really cool little studio show, aren't we, here? When we get over to Singular Studio.
Yeah, she's fast. You guys might have to take the speed of your video down a little bit.
These are lightning fingers. Again, it's okay, Suzanne. I think this is pretty straightforward once you do one.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of just keep talking over as Suzanne knocks them out. She's just connecting all of those things within the subcompositions, the control nodes specifically, to the global control nodes. Those things that she wants to control globally. Pretty straightforward. Again, it's oh, look at you at primary text color, secondary text color. I love it. Throw in the kitchen sink. Now,
Right, I have to rearrange those.
Yes.
My head just goes
Sorry.
a bit crazy with them not being arranged that way.
Yeah, that's you and I are similar that way, Suzanne, and which is to say that you go left to right organization and top to bottom. But I just want to make a comment about on the gradients. When we change one of those, now that I think you've got them all, right, Suzanne?
Yeah.
Go ahead and change the blue value for me right there in the composition. Just something other than. Okay. Now
Nice.
you notice how it just jumped.
Really great.
It just jumped to that color. Now that's fine. Now just to let you know that if there was an update animation on those, it would transition between the two colors. It's no different than the text has an update animation. Now again, if you don't need that effect, why have it there? But Suzanne now will show you, it will actually execute it. The change, the update animation will get triggered on change. Do it.
I
There you
didn't
go.
realize for color on the
Oh,
update.
yeah.
That's really cool.
I had
Now
to
you've
show you
got it.
because the dropper box gets in the way, but we can show you in like Studio.
You can see on the right a little bit
Yeah,
though.
you can just
It's
about see
pretty cool,
it.
actually.
It's interesting when you get into certain values, hex values, the three different colors kind of blend into two. It's interesting, sort of a visual effect. I think if you save a snapshot here, Suzanne, I think we're ready to jump over to our studio instance. This is great. You could call it finished if you want. Oh, you got a baseline bug. You know what?
I'm apparently calling it a hex code.
Yeah, you can't copy and paste that one.
There you
That's
go.
fine.
So we can now, again, another really good thing to do is when you're finished doing everything, just use the out button and just set everything to out. And then we can come over to our dashboard and we can then go open with.
Now, why Suzanne did that is because what's happening right now is the entire composition in the exact state that you left it is being imported into an instance of Singular Studio. So if she had left a graphic on, it's going to show up immediately in Studio. Studio doesn't set everything out to 0.
I can show that.
It basically brings it up in the exact state that the composition was left. You saw it sort of flash.
Just saw a little flash of it.
Yes, exactly.
It eventually takes everything out, right? But
yeah, eventually it does. But it's when you first load the flash, it'll flash up with it, and it can look. Sometimes it can look messy. So we always just by default set everything to out. So I'll close this guy down.
And now there is no, just speaking, there is no two-way communication between the composition and Singular Studio, or any control application for that matter. The other one in your accounts is Spark, obviously, but there's no constant, there's no updating live. So we'll show you the refresh, the business of refreshing a composition, but we'll stay focused on auto playlist. There you go. That's a nice hidden little gem in Studio.
So the auto playlist, we can set it to a timer, or we can just press OK, and that'll just generate everything that we have in the package. And to find that, it's just in this little hamburger down here with an auto playlist.
Nice.
But we can now show, if I then trigger everything up. Now we can show that nice update animation on. Oh yeah, so I hid all of them, I hid all of the controls, the globals, other than the primary text color, just to show you that you could hide them.
Yep. Now, Suzanne, do me a favor, jump back over there and enable those. There you go.
Now unhide all of these bad boys.
And now you're getting into the business of this back and forth between the composition and the control in Studio, and you hit a refresh. There you go. And now I would say you probably need to bring it in again, and now it should appear. And the one up there will appear too, I bet. No, I'm sorry, it doesn't. Yeah, just delete that
it
one.
does sometimes, but it's always...
I don't think it does on globals, but it does on regular sub-compositions, I believe. Huh.
I think you ran into a bug there, Suzanne.
I think I ran into a bug. It doesn't want to delete, but anyway,
You know
so
what?
we have them there.
Yeah, that
I
is a
can
little
pick
bit of it.
another playlist so we can not focus on it for now. You can show them how to do that.
So to create another playlist, you just have the add button here, and then go back. By double clicking, I can get everything up, and then I can come back over to my auto playlist, press OK, and start again. So if I then trigger all my graphics in, I can then change the color to, let's go with a nice orangey color. And then what color goes well with orange? Thanks.
Blue. Or another shade of orange.
Slightly different shade of orange. And then as soon as I trigger that, you get a nice little...
That's pretty cool.
And that does the entire package.
Very
Even when we
nice.
kind of animate on and off.
Can you do two back-to-back globals next to, or you know what? Not even globals. Don't do that. Two back-to-back like baselines, so you can show what it looks like for people in a real scenario. So like if you want to switch from 2 different, 3, whatever, however many messages in your baseline, you want to duplicate out that baseline overlay multiple times and just change the text, and then you can animate in from each, different baseline, and you'll get the different information. So we'll see that in a second. Can't really see it with our orange, but yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, nice red text.
And you can see that nothing's happening on the hello between the second and third one, I think, because you didn't change the third hello. So if there isn't a change in certain text elements, nothing will happen. So let's see.
Unless you have auto update in the update animation, then it will override that. But you are right, that is correct. And that's a nice feature. So you can update certain elements of an overlay and not others. Now, Suzanne clicked the output button, so she's just looking at output only. Because in some cases, you don't even need that preview window. The preview window, obviously, if you click on an item in the list, not the play button, you'll see the preview. So
if you want to create like a ticker on this baseline, you'll want to create a new playlist and then throw in some loops and stuff so that you can turn it on and not touch it if you've got like a new show happening.
I'm just going to use the down arrow, and I can just change everything quite quickly. I'm then just going to come over here and just go like 0.3.
And when she's doing
adding
it, right.
Just added a 0.3 second loop, and then I'm just going to throw in some random text so we can see it changing ever so slightly. And then if I press the loop button up here, followed by play, see that the random keyboard malfunction is taking place.
Set it and forget it. That's what we say,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's nice for like social media handles and whatnot. You can bring up your, Facebook, Instagram, or what have you, and just have it in a little loop, bring it up, keep it on for a little bit, take it off. Nice, handy little feature.
Yeah, and you can do that with literally any overlay that you build. So if you want like a panel updating or this lower third, you can get really creative with your loops. You can start to add pauses in between if you want. We haven't covered that, but there's stuff in our support portal that covers sort of advanced operation stuff in Studio that you can check out if you want to.
And while that's going around, we can still trigger other graphics in something else, as long as we don't trigger another baseline or anything on the same layer, the same logic layer.
I think we covered everything we wanted to build, right? And we even do a little bit more. Now we can tweak the colors of this one, and we got all 3 pieces built. I hope this was a helpful stream this morning. I think
You guys are still around. It's been a long one, right?
Yeah, we went a little bit long. Usually we hit about an hour. We're a little bit over that. So I guess we can kind of wrap it up, I think. You guys, if there's anything we didn't cover.
Travis, are you alive?
I'm still here.
There he is. Travis, we're gonna wrap this one up because I think we covered everything we want to do.
That was pretty thorough, I think.
I hope so. I think I don't know what's coming in the next ones, but I'm sure we've got Kathryn's got some good ones in store for our next streams that we will be doing. Maybe even some more advanced composition building, examples of tables and more advanced widgets where we get into sub-compositions, widgets that are dependent on their own dedicated sub-composition. And then you can get into all kinds of things for buildings, clocks and scores for sporting events, everything from tables and standings and fixtures and on and on and on. But that's for another day. I think we're wrapped up for today, right, guys?
Yeah.
Travis, thank you. Suzanne, always a pleasure. Kathryn, thank you for setting the table for us today, and thanks for everybody for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Until next time.